What is the most obscure Sonic game? I don't know. How do you even truly determine what the most least known of something is? What even is a Sonic game? What even is a game? I'm not trying to get philosophical here. These are real fucking questions I had to ask myself while making this video. And the answer is, I don't know. But I'm still gonna look at a bunch of Sonic games and see if I can figure out which one is the most obscure. Is it this one? Is it this one? Is it this one? It's probably not this one. Huh, I wish. Why don't we go back to the beginning? Well, the most obscure Sonic game probably didn't come out for the Genesis. I mean, everybody knows about these ones. Well, okay, maybe not everybody knows about Sonic 3D Blast or Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, but they're definitely not the most obscure. What about Sonic Eraser? Sonic Eraser is a Japanese-only puzzle game that was distributed digitally through MegaNet, possibly best known for its legendarily shitty music. Still, it's not really much of a Sonic game, so should it count? Is it one of the Game Gear or Master System games? I don't think so. I never had a Game Gear or Master System, so I never actually played any of these games, but I know they have a pretty dedicated following. Well, some of them do. I'm not sure how many people are out there defending Sonic Blast or Sonic Labyrinth, which is an isometric Sonic game where they made him slow as hell and you have to get around using your spin dash, which is your only ability. You can't even jump. But the 8-bit Sonic 1 and 2 seem pretty cool, mainly because they're not just a shitty version of the originals, they have unique zones and gimmicks and stuff. Sonic Chaos and Sonic Triple Trouble also seem decent. The Game Gear also had Tails Adventure and Tails Sky Patrol, the only two actual games they ever got to star in. What about Sonic's EduSoft? This is an unreleased educational game for the Master System, and it's mostly just answering boring questions, but there are also some stupid mini-games. Again, does this even count? It was never approved by Sega and it was never officially released, although the ROM was discovered in 2008 and put online. Speaking of educational games, we can't forget about Sonic Schoolhouse, a 1996 PC release. This one isn't actually that obscure because it's gained quite a bit of notoriety over the years for how fucking weird it is. You walk around like it's Wolfenstein, you solve problems, and basically it's an all-around nightmare. Kind of deserves its own video to fully explore how horrifying it is, so for now you'll just have to take my word for it. There's also Sonic the Hedgehog's Game World for the Sega Pico. It's not really an educational game exactly, it's more just like a collection of bullshit minigames that happen to feature Sonic characters. This game has all your favorite Sonic characters. Sonic, Amy, Robotnik, Flicky, Pocky, Ricky, Picky, Rocky, and Cucky. Don't forget my favorite Sonic character, Cucky. Cucky. The other Sonic game on the Pico is Tails and the Music Maker. While there's plenty of music making, there are also some dumb Sonic-inspired minigames, and Tails has pink shoes in this game for some reason. Hey, speaking of consoles nobody's ever heard of, how about Sonic N, released for the N-Gage? You remember the N-Gage, right? Oh, we laughed so hard at this stupid taco-shaped N-Gage. Who would ever want to play games on a phone? That's fucking stupid! But it's pretty much just a port of Sonic Advance that's impossible to play due to the vertically oriented screen. How about an actually original game? Well, there's Sonic Jam for the Game.com, whatever the fuck that is. It's not a port of Sonic Jam for the Saturn, no, it's basically a terrible version of Sonic with levels based on previous stages. I mean, I'm not sure what else I can say about this footage that you can't already see for yourself. It's shit. How about Sonic X for the Leapster? Yeah, I never heard of a Leapster before either, but apparently it's got a game called Sonic X which uses a modified Sonic 3 sprite sheet. It's actually sort of based off of Sonic X the show, but don't get too excited, it's just another boring educational game aimed at kids aged 5 to 7. Once again, it's about running around solving math problems. How about an obscure Sonic game for a handheld nobody owned that's actually pretty good? Here's Sonic Pocket Adventure for the Neo Geo Pocket Color, released in 1999. Kind of like Game.com's Sonic Jam, it has levels based on previous games, mostly Sonic 2, only it isn't total garbage. In fact, it's actually pretty damn good for a handheld. But what if the most obscure Sonic game wasn't even released on a console? What if it was an arcade game? Well, I've already briefly talked about Sega Sonic the Hedgehog before. It's pretty damn weird and obscure, uses a trackball to control which makes it a bitch to emulate, but at the end of the day it's probably not the most obscure game. I mean, sure, obviously your average Joe Normie has never heard of fucking Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, but if you're the kind of person who's interested in watching a video about obscure Sonic games, it's possible you've heard of it. I mean, it is the game Mighty is originally from. Sonic the Fighters is a good one, but it's definitely not the most obscure. It was ported to consoles in 2012, and it was also part of the Sonic Gems collection in 2005. It was even featured in Wreck-It Ralph for a fraction of a second. You might not have noticed it, but your brain did. Did you know there were arcade releases of Sonic 1 and 2? They're basically the same, but there's a timer ticking down and 1-ups have been removed. You have to use quarters instead. That's kind of interesting, right? How about this one? Have you ever heard of Sega Sonic Bros? It's an unreleased arcade puzzle game designed by Fukio Mitsuji, the creator of Bubble Bobble. Sega Sonic Bros was originally set for release in 1992. However, the game failed its location test in Japan and subsequently did not see a nationwide release. Its existence only came to public attention in early 2016 when a working board was found by arcade board collector Showtime. That's pretty obscure, right? But again, does it even count if it never actually came out? Speaking of unreleased games, how about Sonic X-treme? It's definitely not the most obscure. In fact, it's probably the most famous cancelled Sonic game. The development of Sonic X-treme definitely deserves its own video. There's also Sonic X-treme with an E. This was an early pitch demo for a Sonic skating game developed in 2004-2005 that was found in an Xbox development kit in 2011. That's pretty obscure, right? Well, I mean, not really. There are some pretty popular YouTube videos on this subject, so plenty of people are aware of its existence, even though it's a game that was cancelled before it was ever even approved or announced. As far as rejected demos go, did you know STI created a little proof of concept showing an idea for a potential game based on the Saturday morning cartoon? This project was called Sonic 16. The gameplay was pretty odd. It had Sonic throwing rings and peeking around corners and shit. Like, what is this, Metal Gear Sonic? Apparently Yuji Naka gave the demo a thumbs down, probably because it looked boring and slow as shit, so it was never developed any further. Alright, here's a pretty obscure game. Have you ever heard of Sega Sonic Cosmo Fighter Galaxy Patrol? It's a Japanese children's ride that plays like a shmup. As you can see, the robots you destroy turn into weird stars, and at the end you fight Robotnik. It's only a few minutes long though, since it has to match the length of the ride. Another Japanese children's ride that features Sonic is Waku Waku Sonic Patrol Car. Finally, I can play as Sonic as a cop. Because when you think of Sonic, you think of following the rules and handing out speeding tickets. You can't exactly lose in these games, but you do get rated between 1 and 5 stars at the end based on your performance, so what do you think? Do these count as games? What about this one? Sega Sonic Popcorn Shop. I've mentioned this before briefly, but this was a popcorn machine that has a little built-in minigame you can play while your popcorn cooks by turning a crank. Again, there's no way to fail. You get the popcorn whether or not you touch the crank. What about Sonic Athletics? It's kind of a Sonic game, but it's really more of a fitness thing. It's just a race and you control the character using a treadmill, but that's still a game, right? Don't forget about Sonic Ghost Shooting, which is like a little ride/light gun shooter where you shoot little Sonic Adventure 2 ghosts. Those last two are attractions for Tokyo Joyopolis. And it looks like they still have Sonic Athletics, but I couldn't find anything about ghost shooting. Although they apparently have something called Sonic Brain Ranking. It competes for a score in 5 games. Aim at a score higher than whom using intellect. So it's like a live Sonic quiz show, I guess. Gee, that sounds like something I'd be good at. Too bad it's only available in Japanese. And in Japan. There's also Sonic Carnival, which is just a bunch of Sonic-themed prize games. These definitely don't count as Sonic games, right? I mean, what about this old Sonic the Hedgehog Redemption game from 1993? Look, these motherfuckers gave him blue arms too! Absolutely disgraceful. And don't even get me started on all the Sonic slot machines out there. Just look at this monstrosity from 1997. Quite the top panel. Here's one from 2008 called Sonic Live. Can you believe this isn't even the weirdest thing called Sonic Live? Well, could you believe even this isn't the weirdest thing called Sonic Live? I mean, as weird as this is, I think Sonic Live in Sydney might have it beat. In March of 1997, an indoor amusement park opened in Australia called Sega World Sydney. As one of several Sega World branded amusement parks, the overall design and feel of the park was very similar to Sega Japan's Joyopolis centers. While the primary emphasis was on the Sonic franchise, some more obscure Sega characters such as Bug were also heavily promoted. There was a half-hour live show hosted at the park called Sonic Live in Sydney, and it was set in an alternate timeline where the Death Egg crash lands on Australia instead of Angel Island, causing Robotnik to attempt to take over Sydney. However, he stopped by Sonic, Tails, and Princess Sally. There was a subplot involving Tails being shown around Sydney's landmarks, and apparently the show featured a large amount of audience interaction. For the most part, the musical cues and sound effects were taken from the Genesis version of Sonic 2. However, 3 songs were written specifically for the show. Unfortunately, as far as I can tell, there are no known video recordings of the performance. However, there was an album released containing the full versions of those songs as the first 3 tracks, with the 4th track as them as they would be heard in the context of the attraction with the audience interaction cues. The show debuted when the park opened in '97, but it only lasted a short time. By the end of the year, it was decided the production was not dynamic enough and was replaced with the Sonic the Hedgehog puppet show with a completely new plot and brand new songs. This new show ran until 1999, but unlike Sonic Live, the music was never collected into an album that was available at the park. By 2000, Sega had pulled out from the partnership operating Sega World, and the park was suffering from low attendance and financial losses. There were hopes that tourists visiting Sydney for the 2000 Summer Olympics would help the park meet the visitor break-even point, but this did not occur, and Sega World was closed in November 2000. In March 2001, the contents of the park were auctioned off. Only 300 people attended the auction, with most of the rides being sold off for minimal prices. What was this video about again? What's the most obscure Sonic game? I don't know, man, it kinda depends on your definition of Sonic game. Hopefully there was at least one game in here you hadn't heard of. And if you did already know about all these, then geez, hit me up, dude, we should play Sonic Brain Ranking sometime. So what do you think the most obscure Sonic game is? Is there a Sonic game so obscure that it didn't even make it into this video? I sure hope not.
Well, if you are, how would you like to go to computer game heaven and spend hours playing the most recent high-tech games? My mate Sonic the Hedgehog here reckons you can do all that plus more at Australia's only indoor theme park right behind us. What's that? He reckons I should stop talking and get going, so I'll leave you with it, mate. Have fun. I'm taking a look at Sydney's newest attraction. It's called Sega World, and you'll find it at Darling Harbour on the edge of the CBD. Entry to this high-tech park is via the time tunnel.